Welcome to Storied Audio. Lucas had always believed heartbreak was something you could outrun. 10 years earlier, when Arya left him for someone else, he packed his life into the back of his old truck and drove until the Georgia pines disappeared in the rearview mirror. He settled in Nashville, hoping the music, the crowds, and the noise would drown out the ache in his chest. For a decade he tried everything. New friends, new jobs, new routines. He rebuilt himself piece by piece, but something was always missing. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the quiet streets of North Georgia, the familiar faces, the sunsets over the ridge. Home wasn't just a place. It was a feeling. And he'd lost it. So at 35, Lucas finally stopped running. He packed up again, but this time he drove toward the pines. His hometown hadn't changed much. The diner still smelled like coffee and biscuits. The old mill still stood crooked by the river. And his childhood friends welcomed him back like he'd only been gone a week. Reconnecting felt natural, like slipping into a favorite jacket. But nothing surprised him more than seeing her. He spotted Wendy Carver at the grocery store, standing in front of the apples, her hair tied back the same way she wore it in high school. She had been his quiet crush back then. The girl who laughed softly, who doodled flowers on her notebooks, who never knew he existed beyond a shy hello. They hadn't spoken since the week before he left town. When she turned and saw him, her eyes widened. Lucas? Lucas Hale. He almost forgot how to breathe. They talked for 20 minutes in the produce aisle. She told him she'd gotten divorced 6 months earlier. It had been messy, painful, and she wasn't ready for anything new. Lucas felt a tug in his chest, but he didn't push. He simply said, "I'm not going anywhere. Friends is more than enough." And it was. They started meeting for coffee at the diner. Then walks by the river. Then late-night talks on her porch, where the cicadas hummed and the world felt softer. Wendy laughed more around him. Lucas felt lighter around her. They didn't rush. They didn't force anything. They just let it happen. He didn't realize he was falling in love until the night she cried on his shoulder, telling him she didn't know if she'd ever trust someone again. He held her gently, not saying a word, because sometimes silence is the kindest thing. But love, even gentle love, rarely arrives without a storm. Her ex-husband, Mark, was a man who didn't let go easily. He'd heard Lucas was spending time with Wendy, and anger simmered in him like a pot left too long on the stove. One evening, as Lucas left the diner, Mark stepped out from behind a truck. "You think you can just stroll back into town and take what's mine?" Mark snarled. Lucas froze. "Wendy isn't yours. Not anymore." Mark shoved him. Lucas stumbled but didn't raise a hand. He wanted to hit him, but he knew that would just upset Wendy more. "You stay away from her," Mark hissed. "She's confused. She doesn't need you messing with her head." Lucas steadied himself. "I'm her friend. That's all." Mark's lip curled. "For now." The confrontation shook Lucas more than he wanted to admit. He didn't tell Wendy, not at first. He didn't want to add weight to her already heavy heart. But Mark didn't stop. He showed up at the diner when Lucas was there. He drove past Wendy's house too slowly. He made comments to mutual friends. Nothing illegal, nothing dramatic, just enough to make Lucas feel like he was walking through a field of broken glass. One night, Lucas found Wendy sitting on her porch steps, her face pale. "Mark came by," she whispered. "He said you were trying to replace him." Lucas sat beside her. "I'm not trying to replace anyone." She looked at him, eyes trembling. "I don't want you getting hurt because of me." He took her hand gently. "Wendy, I'm here because I care about you. Not because I'm trying to win something." She leaned into him and he held her as she cried, not because of Mark but because she was tired of fear controlling her life. The next day Lucas made a choice. Not to fight Mark. Not to confront him. But to protect Wendy the right way. He encouraged her to talk to her lawyer. To document the visits. To set boundaries. To reclaim her space. And he stood beside her through every step, never pushing, never rushing, always steady. Mark eventually realized Wendy wasn't alone anymore, and that Lucas wasn't intimidated. The visits stopped. The comments faded. The storm passed. And when it did, something shifted between Lucas and Wendy. One evening as they walked by the river, she stopped and turned to him. "You've been so patient with me," she said softly. "I don't know how you do it." Lucas smiled. "When something matters, you don't rush it." She stepped closer. "Lucas, I think I'm ready." He didn't move. He let her come to him. She touched his cheek, her fingers trembling, and whispered, "I'm falling in love with you." Lucas felt his heart crack open, not painfully but like sunlight breaking through clouds. "I've loved you since we were kids," he admitted. "But this is better. Because now I know who you are. And you know who I am." She kissed him, slow, warm, grateful. The kind of kiss that feels like coming home. Their relationship wasn't perfect. They had moments of doubt, moments of fear, moments where the past tried to pull them backward. But they faced everything together. Lucas learned that healing wasn't about running away. It was about choosing the right person to walk beside. And Wendy learned that love didn't have to hurt to be real. In the end, they didn't just fall in love. They built something. Something steady, gentle, and worth protecting. Something that felt like home. Subscribe to the channel for more audio stories.